So what are the conditions under which the results approach operates? What does it need to work? Well, first of all, it needs, as I've already said, a government that's focused on effectiveness, that is willing to set itself hard targets, stretch targets, in order to increase the productivity of the state sector. Not giving in to the political pressures and setting targets they know they can get, so they can stand up and say we achieved them. They were prepared to set difficult targets, put a target on their back, and the government has to do that for this sort of program to be successful. They need to therefore be willing to risk failure, and the way they deal with that failure is really quite important as well, because they must see it, and Rodney will be talking further about this, as not focusing on whether they've achieved the target or not, but focusing on the gain. And there has to be a learning culture in the sense that the government has to be willing to learn from the mistakes that have been made and do something about it. It also needs a public service that focuses on data, that is much more data driven than we were before, that is orientated towards taking action. And this is one thing that the government was quite clear about. This is about achieving things for New Zealanders. It's not about plans, it's not about collaboration, it's about actions. Actually making a difference was really a really important driver.
What I want to talk about is the number of problems that you choose to focus on. And to spoil the surprise, I'm going to be suggesting that focusing more on few is better than many. New Zealand has 10, and 10's probably not a magic number, but for some reasons I'll discuss, it's probably not far off a magic number either. The 10 New Zealand results, ministers and senior public servants can all list them off the top of their head. The consequences of failing when you've only got 10 are quite high. If you've got 100 problems, then it's quite easy to write off a couple of them as, oh, we're not going to worry about that. If you've got 10, then everyone knows that all 10 are going to be in the spotlight, and you have to keep pushing as hard as you can on all of them. So, as I said, 10 isn't a magic number, but 5's probably too few, 15 might be pushing too many, so it's probably pretty close. I'm just going to talk about results, targets and measures. These are three quite separate things, and most target regimes around the world combine or confuse two of them or all three of them. So a result is what you're trying to achieve. One example in New Zealand was they wanted to reduce the incidence of rheumatic fever. A target is your level of ambition. How much do you want to reduce rheumatic fever? So New Zealand set the goal of reducing rheumatic fever by 2 to 5 years. The third is the measure. How do you know how you're doing? So in that case, rheumatic fever, it's impossible to know the actual incidence, so New Zealand chose instead to count the hospital presentations as a reasonable proxy for the actual incidence, and chose to use a 12-month rolling average because rheumatic fever is a seasonal condition, so that's a more accurate way to gauge progress.